just some distant geopolitical drama. How does a shadowy terrorist organization in Iran directly impact the cost of your airline ticket and the availability of flights?
Really? I mean, that sounds wild, but also kind of makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah, it's not just some distant geopolitical drama. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC aggression, is actually driving jet fuel prices through the roof. Airlines worldwide are slashing flights and hiking fees, and that hits American families right in the wallet.
So this isn't just about foreign policy or military posturing. It's about real economic pain for everyday people, businesses, and even global supply chains.
Exactly, and by the end of this episode, we'll unpack why using precise language about Iran and the IRGC isn't just semantics, it's a strategic necessity. Plus, we'll break down how IRGC actions translate into economic consequences, and what concrete policy steps are being recommended to tackle this.
That's a lot to cover, but it's crucial. Let's start with the core distinction the letter makes: the Iranian people versus the IRGC regime.
Right. The letter is very clear. The Iranian people are not the enemy. They're actually the primary victims of the IRGC and the mullah-led regime that's controlled Iran since 1979.
And that's not just a semantic point. It's operational and moral. When officials or media say Iran attacked Israel or funded proxies, it unintentionally legitimizes the regime and alienates the Iranian people who are actively resisting it.
The letter references a powerful three-panel graphic that really helps clarify this. First, you have Iranian citizens rising up, waving the historic lion and sun flag, not the regime's flag, and burning IRGC flags.
Then, Israel defending itself against terrorist attacks carried out by IRGC proxies like Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthis.
And finally, the United States refusing to treat the IRGC as a legitimate negotiating partner because they never honor agreements, they walk out or use talks as cover.
That mental model really helps unpack the complex dynamics. It's not just Iran versus Israel or the US. It's the Iranian people versus their oppressors, the IRGC, and the proxy terror networks.
And that leads us to why precise language matters strategically. First, moral clarity. Distinguishing oppressors from the oppressed aligns with American values and human rights.
Right, and it's also about strategic effectiveness. When the U.S. signals that its quarrel is with the IRGC, not Persian civilization or the Iranian people, it encourages and legitimizes internal resistance.
Exactly. It fractures the regime's domestic control by empowering dissidents and reformers who reject the IRGC's tyranny.
Plus, policy discipline. Focused sanctions and military planning can target IRGC leadership, their proxy networks, and illicit activities without harming ordinary Iranians.
And from an America First communication standpoint, explaining the specific threat helps the American public understand why confronting the IRGC protects their economic interests and security.
Speaking of economic interests, the letter highlights some pretty stark data on the direct costs to American families.
Yeah, jet fuel prices have more than doubled amid IRGC-driven conflict and instability in the Strait of Hormuz. Brent crude oil surged over 55%, from about $72 to nearly $120 per barrel.
That's huge, and airlines worldwide are feeling the pinch. United is pruning unprofitable flights and raising bag fees. Lufthansa cut 20,000 short-haul flights and saved 40,000 metric tons of jet fuel.
SAS canceled 1,000 flights in April alone. Air Canada suspended JFK service for several months. Air France, KLM, Air New Zealand, Cathay Pacific, and others are all cutting lower margin and off-peak flights first.
So airlines are conserving fuel and protecting margins. But that means higher fares, fewer flights, and disrupted travel plans for consumers.
And this isn't incidental or scattered. It's a direct economic tax on American families, businesses, tourism jobs, and supply chains, all traceable to IRGC aggression threatening global energy routes.
The letter stresses that this trajectory, higher fares, fewer flights, is neither inevitable nor acceptable. The source of the pressure is identifiable and targetable.
Which brings us to the recommended policy actions. The letter calls for consistent use of precise language in all official communications to distinguish the IRGC regime from the Iranian people.
It also urges publicly designating Ahmad Vahidi, the current IRGC commander-in-chief, as the top ace of spades in a revived World's Most Wanted deck, dead or alive.
Vahidi's record is significant. He was a founding Quds Force commander and is linked to the 1994 AMIA bombing in Buenos Aires that killed 85 people.
Naming him publicly serves as a psychological operation to demoralize IRGC ranks and signal that the U.S. will hold leadership personally accountable for terrorism.
The letter also recommends demanding proof of life for Vahidi through diplomatic and intelligence channels. There's been no credible, independently verifiable proof of life since his appointment amid leadership losses.
That's a clever move. It forces the regime to either produce him or expose instability in their command structure, sowing doubt and demoralization within the IRGC.
And it strengthens the hope of the Iranian people rising up against their oppressors.
Beyond that, the letter calls for reaffirming and strengthening red lines on the Strait of Hormuz. Any IRGC attempt to impose tolls or restrict innocent passage must be met with decisive force.
Accelerating sanctions targeting IRGC oil smuggling, shadow fleets, and financial facilitators is also key.
Plus, deepening coordination with Israel and regional partners to degrade IRGC proxy networks that fuel both regional terror and global energy instability.
And amplifying public diplomacy that supports Iranian dissidents and emphasizes the distinction between the people and their oppressors.
Taken together, these steps align with America First principles, protecting American families economically and militarily while standing with Israel and oppressed peoples.
The letter also highlights that these measures cost far less than another war and leverage psychological and information operations to weaken the IRGC from within.
It's written from a place of deep personal experience. A veteran, law enforcement officer, pilot, and ministry co-founder, which adds authenticity and moral weight.
So to wrap up, this conversation shows how language shapes policy and public perception in complex conflicts.
Understanding the direct economic consequences of IRGC aggression clarifies why precise, targeted action is necessary.
The recommended policies blend military, diplomatic, economic, and psychological tools to address a multifaceted threat.
And importantly, the Iranian people's struggle for freedom is distinct from the IRGC's tyranny. U.S. messaging and policy must reflect that nuance to be effective.
Ultimately, this is about protecting American families, security, and economic well-being while supporting human rights and regional stability.
Yeah, it's a complex challenge, but clarity in language and strategy can make all the difference.
Absolutely. Thanks for unpacking this with me.
Likewise. It's been a thoughtful discussion.